It was supposed to be a peaceful morning. A black man steps out of his home, coffee in hand, ready for work, but within seconds, chaos erupts. Two men in fake police uniforms rush toward him, shouting false charges, flashing fake badges, and trying to force him into their car. Neighbors freeze. Cameras start rolling. They thought they were arresting some random homeowner. What they didn't know is that he's Chief Gregory Miller, the city's own police chief. And when he flashes his real badge, everything stops, fear replaces arrogance, and justice turns the tables instantly. Before we dive in, make sure you hit like and subscribe because stories like this deserve to be heard. The fake officers stood firm, their voices sharp and demanding. Hands behind your back. You're trespassing on HOA property, one of them barked. Gregory blinked, disbelief flickering in his calm brown eyes. He knew his neighborhood's HOA could be overbearing, letters about grass height, threats about mailbox colors, but this was something else. He steadied the two men. Their badges gleamed, but too clean. Their uniforms fit awkwardly, stiff and new, without the wear real patrol duty brings. And the SUV parked on the curb? No official markings, no number, no radio chatter. Just tinted windows and arrogance. Gregory didn't move. He sipped his coffee, unbothered. You mind showing me a warrant? He asked evenly. The taller one sneered. You think you can talk your way out of this, huh? HOA filed a complaint. Said you're illegally occupying this property. Illegally? Gregory tilted his head. I've lived here for 7 years. I pay the same dues as everyone else. Maybe more. The shorter man stepped forward, reaching for Gregory's wrist. That was the first mistake. Gregory didn't flinch, but his tone dropped, cold and commanding. Son, he said quietly, you should stop right there. The taller man laughed. Or what? You gonna call the cops? Gregory smiled faintly. Something like that. From across the street, a neighbor whispered, ain't that Mr. Miller? He's a cop, right? Phones were out now, recording every second. Still, the fake officers pressed on. Sir, we're not gonna ask again, one of them warned. You need to come with us. The HOA wants you off this property today. The HOA wants, Gregory repeated softly, almost to himself. That's not how the law works. He set his coffee down slowly on the hood of his car, eyes steady. You see, he said, real officers follow protocol. They announce charges, read rights, present warrants. You two don't even know what jurisdiction means. The shorter man's voice wavered. Hey, we're just following orders. From who? Gregory asked, stepping closer now, the weight of his presence shifting the air. Because this uniform you're wearing? It's a felony if it's fake. And I can promise you, impersonating a police officer won't end well. The taller one bristled, trying to sound tough. We don't need to explain ourselves to you. Gregory's eyes narrowed. No, but you will, to the Metro County Police Department. For the first time, a flicker of fear crossed their faces. Gregory subtly pressed his smartwatch. A silent alert pinged his station. Backup would be there in minutes. But he didn't wait for them to save him. He'd handle this the old-fashioned way, calm, firm, and by the book. I've dealt with criminals before, he said quietly. But you two, you're different. You think this neighborhood makes you untouchable. You think a homeowner's board is more powerful than the badge. The taller man scoffed, but his confidence was fading. You talk too much. Gregory smiled again, that slow, dangerous kind of smile that comes from someone who knows exactly how this will end. I'm giving you one last chance, he said. Tell me who sent you. They exchanged nervous glances. One muttered, the HOA president. She said you were a problem. Gregory exhaled, slow, steady. Then she just made her biggest one. And as the faint sound of real police sirens began echoing in the distance, the fake officer's bravado vanished. They knew the game was over. The chief was done playing along. The faint wail of sirens grew louder, slicing through the quiet suburban air. The fake officers froze, exchanging quick, panicked looks. Gregory didn't move. He simply crossed his arms, watching them like a teacher waiting for his students to realize their mistake. "You hear that?" he asked calmly. "That's what a real response sounds like." The taller imposter took a shaky breath. "You called for backup?" Gregory raised an eyebrow. "You break into a police chief's property, pretend to arrest him, and think he wouldn't have backup on speed dial?" The shorter man's voice cracked. "Chief?" That word hit them both like a shockwave. The taller one tried to recover, stammering, You're lying. You're not a chief." Gregory's expression hardened. He reached slowly into his jacket and pulled out his badge, gleaming gold, engraved with authority that didn't need explanation. "Chief Gregory Miller, Metro County Police Department," he said firmly. "Now, unless you want this to go from a bad idea to a felony conviction, I suggest you put your hands where I can see them." For a moment, the entire street fell silent. Only the wind rustled through the trees and the low hum of approaching engines filled the air. Neighbors stepped out of their houses, recording, whispering, stunned. One woman gasped, "He's really the chief?" Gregory's backup arrived, 3 patrol cars sliding to a stop in perfect formation. Real officers stepped out, weapons drawn but steady, eyes locked on the 2 imposters. "Chief Miller, you okay?" one called out. Gregory nodded slightly. "Yeah. Just a couple of amateurs playing dress-up." The taller fake officer panicked. Wait, we can explain. The HOA president told us, she said this man was trespassing. We were just following orders." "Orders," Gregory repeated quietly. "From who, exactly?" Before the imposters could respond, a sleek white SUV rolled up. Out stepped Mary Ann Fletcher, the HOA president herself, expensive suit, smug smile, thinking she still had control. "Chief Miller," she said sweetly, pretending surprise. "Oh my, what's going on here?" "I only sent them to ask you a few questions about your property line." Gregory cut her off. "You sent 2 men dressed as officers. With fake badges. To arrest me." Her mask slipped for a split second. "That's absurd. They were contractors. I had no idea." One of the imposters shouted, "You told us to make him leave. You said if we acted official, he'd back off." The crowd gasped. Cameras zoomed in. Mary Ann's face drained of color. "That's a lie." Gregory stepped closer, eyes locked on her trembling posture. "You know, Mrs. Fletcher, there's one thing I've learned in this job. When people lie, they always forget one detail." He held up his smartwatch. It had recorded the entire encounter, audio and video. Every word, every threat, every false command. "Guess what?" he said evenly. "You just confessed, on tape." The real officers moved in, cuffing the 2 imposters first. One muttered under his breath, "We didn't know he was a cop." Gregory replied calmly, "You didn't need to know. You just needed to know what's right." He turned to Mary Ann as she tried to back away. "You tried to use power to scare me. But power built on lies always collapses." As she was read her rights, the cameras from local news crews arrived, catching every second. The headline would later read, "HOA president arrested after sending fake officers to intimidate police chief." Gregory watched silently as the imposters were driven away. Then, almost to himself, he murmured, "Justice has a way of finding its way home." And this time, it had, right to his doorstep. News vans screeched to a stop at the edge of the street. The once quiet neighborhood was now a scene straight out of a movie, flashing lights, cameras rolling, microphones pointed toward the chaos. The HOA president, Mary Ann Fletcher, stood surrounded by officers, her fake calm crumbling under the weight of what she'd done. Gregory stood a few feet away, posture firm, expression controlled but resolute. He wasn't angry anymore, he didn't need to be. The truth was speaking for itself. A reporter called out, "Chief Miller." Is it true the HOA tried to have you arrested? Gregory looked toward the camera, his tone steady. Yes. They set individuals impersonating police officers to intimidate me into surrendering my own home. That's a serious federal crime. The murmurs from the gathered crowd grew louder. Neighbors who had once quietly ignored HOA meetings were now seeing the corruption in full view. The lies, the control, the threats, all exposed under the afternoon sun. Marianne tried to shout over the noise. This is a misunderstanding. I never told them to impersonate anyone. Gregory raised a hand, silencing the chaos. Mrs. Fletcher, he said evenly, we have your voice on tape. You instructed them to remove me from my property and told them to look official. Those were your words. The reporter's camera zoomed in on her pale face. She was cornered, trembling, her voice cracking. I didn't mean. You meant to abuse your power, Gregory interrupted softly. But power without accountability is just corruption. He turned to his officers. Take her in. As Marianne was led to a patrol car, the taller fake officer called out desperately, Chief. Please, she said she'd pay us. We didn't mean harm. Gregory's jaw tightened. You wore my badge. You put innocent lives at risk. You meant harm the second you pretended to uphold the law. He looked back toward the crowd, the same neighbors who once saw him as just another resident. Now, they looked at him differently. Not just as a police chief, but as a man who refused to be silenced. A small boy tugged his mother's sleeve and whispered, Mom, he's the good guy, right? His mother smiled faintly. Yeah, sweetheart. He's the one who stopped the bad guys. Gregory overheard, and for the first time that day, a flicker of warmth crossed his face. He walked to the edge of his driveway, where one of his sergeants approached. Sir, the sergeant said, handing over a tablet. We've confirmed the HOA's been misusing funds, fabricating property claims, and filing false complaints against minority homeowners. Gregory exhaled slowly. So this wasn't just about me. No, sir. It's bigger. Way bigger. Gregory nodded, glancing back at the cameras. Then we handle it by the book. Every document, every file, every name. Bring them all in. The sergeant nodded firmly and began giving orders. Officers moved methodically, collecting evidence, interviewing witnesses, logging every piece of data. Marianne, sitting in the back of the patrol car, glared out the window at Gregory. You think you've won? She spat. He met her eyes calmly. This was never about winning. It's about justice, something you tried to rewrite for your own gain. He stepped closer, his voice low but cutting. You forgot one thing, Marianne. The law doesn't serve power, it protects people from it. The camera lights flared brighter, capturing the moment as she looked away, defeated. Gregory turned back to his team. Let's finish this, he said simply. The officers nodded, and as the last fake cop car pulled out, the neighborhood fell silent again. The flashing lights reflected off Gregory's badge, a symbol not of authority, but of integrity. He looked up at the sky, whispering to himself, no one's above the law. Not even the ones who think they make the rules. And as the scene faded, the sound of distant sirens blended into the quiet hum of justice being restored, one street, one truth, one badge at a time. A week later, the neighborhood was different. The chaos had settled, but the echoes of that day still lingered in every conversation, every glance. News outlets ran the headline nonstop. HOA president arrested for orchestrating fake police operation against city chief. The story spread across the country, interviews, reactions, and think pieces about race, power, and accountability. But Gregory didn't care for fame. He cared for change. That morning, he walked the same street where it all happened, no flashing lights, no cameras this time. Just the sound of wind rustling through the trees. A few neighbors waved, some nodded in respect, others simply said, "Morning, Chief." He returned the greetings with a humble smile. The same man, but everything around him had changed. Near the mailbox, he saw a young boy chalk drawing on the sidewalk. The same boy from that day. When he looked up and spotted Gregory, his eyes lit up. "You really are the chief, huh?" he asked. Gregory chuckled softly. "That's what they tell me." The boy grinned. "My mom says you're the reason people like her can finally sleep without being scared of the HOA. Gregory crouched down beside him. "Tell your mom she doesn't have to be scared of anyone who breaks the rules. The law protects her, just like it protects everyone else." The boy nodded, serious beyond his years. "Even from the bad guys in suits?" Gregory smiled gently. "Especially them." He stood, gazing toward the once intimidating HOA office across the street, now sealed, its door marked under investigation. A quiet symbol that justice had, indeed, come home. His phone buzzed, a message from the mayor. "Proud of you, Chief. You reminded the city what real law enforcement looks like." He stared at the text for a moment before replying. "Just did my job." But deep down, he knew it was more than that. This wasn't just about an arrest, it was about exposing how easily power could be twisted and how courage could untwist it again. As he walked back to his house, sunlight glinted off his badge. The same badge the fake officers tried to mock, now shining brighter than ever. He paused at his front step, looking around his quiet neighborhood, and said under his breath, "Justice doesn't shout. It just shows up." And with that, Chief Gregory Miller stepped inside, not as a man who won, but as one who reminded everyone that truth never needs permission to stand tall. Some people think power can silence truth. But stories like this prove justice always finds a voice. If you believe in standing up for what's right, hit subscribe, share this story, and let the world see that truth still wins.